Hey everybody, welcome to Habitat Now. We have a great day planned and you're invited to our MasterWorks auction today at 2:15 p.m. right after this auction on our MasterWorks auction site. 69 pieces up for auction. I'm honored today to be joined by Habitat's founder Ferdinand Hampson and my partner Corey Hampson as we discuss a lot of the works. We might not discuss everything in detail because there's 69 pieces is a lot of pieces. But it's a lot of fun to do these auctions and a lot of great treasures for people to buy at great prices. So why not? Ferd, say hi to everybody while I start messing around with my screen.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Corey, say hello too if you're there. I see you.
I'm here. Can you hear me? My audio's been a little.
You're a little choppy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you get a little.
So for those of you who are familiar with our website, we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you at Glass Coast Weekend coming in next month in Florida. We'll talk a little bit about that. But on top of our website, there's a view auctions button right here. You can click it to get to our auctions, which are always posted on this site, and you're welcome to browse and bid. I'll post a link also in the auction for those who want a direct link. So let me kick back to our PowerPoint. So do these Zooms every Saturday. Next weekend is going to be the first visit of NGG artist Austin Norville. Someone new to me. Corey's pretty familiar with the artist, but I'm honored to have him join us in our NGG family. We're still planning for the glass tour for this year, and spots are filling up. It's getting pretty exciting. Talk to people every day who have the first time going on or been on a bunch of times. It's an amazing trip that Ferd and Kathy take everybody on, along with Sue and Al Weiner. We just talked about Glass Coast Weekend. It's coming up quick next month. If you're not there, it's like so fun now. Everybody's coming down. There's going to be over 20 artists there. We're going to see the Bash collection. Barbara Bash is giving a talk, and we're honoring her at the first ever fireworks soiree. The Fuglesberg and Baldwin are going to be there. We're having another auction. It's going to be lots of fun. First demo ever by John Kiley, and lots of other experiences. We're going to the Dali Museum to check out one of those big giant orbs you get into, and it has the immersion experience. The Imagine Museum Gala, Fire and Light, and then the Chihuly Museum. It's so many. Sarah's Art Museum. On top of what we're doing, it's probably one of the best years ever. I hope to see you there. So we're on to our auction. So there's 69 pieces up for auction, and we have hand selected these because there's lots of variety we want to get out there. We have a few collections in our gallery, and pieces have been people have asked us about certain things, and there's certain artists that we've added that we don't really know and we've learned about. So we're going to share this with you. So without further ado, let's get started. Ferdinand pointed this artist out to me earlier today. I had the name misspelled. I had a K in Ulrika. So I pulled that out and corrected it. But it's a nice, fun paperweight by the artist who was the late wife of Bertil Vallien. Hand painted, very fun piece. It's kind of a fun piece to start the auction with. I think it has like $100 start price. So got a couple bids already. Just something really fun and enlightening for people to collect by the artist. And I always see her work in people's collections.
Little fun fact. She's actually, I was told, better known in Sweden than her legendary husband, Bertil Vallien. It's an extraordinary number of people own her work in Sweden. She's very
out of every 4 households in Sweden own a piece, and there are 7 million people that live in the country of Sweden. So to give you an idea, she is the most prolific artist in the entire country. And her husband, Bertil, is turning 86 January 17th. So just to let everybody know, send him a card, send him his regards, send something, flowers, whatever the case is, just to let you know.
So we're kind of kicking off a fun work by Tammy Coatsworth. We've had her work in the gallery. I discovered her artwork in one of our clients' books who published his collection. And he put out, I think, 3 of the books. And his name is Jim or James. But come to me before the end of the talk because a couple pieces in here by her. And this is a fun piece in honor of Andy Warhol, flat work. All cast and fused, the sandblasted glass. There's a couple in here by her. Her crayon process is absolutely amazing. We've done a limited with her as well. And it's just great to put her in this auction.
Hey, Ferd, here's a quick one. What is the art term for making something that looks like something out of a different material?
Trompe
l'oeil. That's it. Trompe l'oeil.
Another fun piece. This piece is actually quite big, 16 by 19, a wall-mounted Bazooka Joe comic book from our childhood. Another fun piece, quite substantial in size. I love seeing these they're in our vault for a little bit. and I wanted to put them up at auction. And these are very fun for a space that makes you want to smile.
You know, it's interesting. If you look at her background, she started out with stained glass, went to blown glass, went to fused, went to graphics for design. Her education is really extensive in terms of so many different ways. And that's why this work is so unusual, so interesting.
Yeah, oh, I remember I discovered her work through James Della's book, which we have at the gallery. You can come see anytime.
Yeah.
David Lappa. Here's one I don't really know much about. Just a fun overall artist. I think I looked it up. He has a studio where he still makes work today. And a lot of these artists start off in either Penland or Pelchuk, and they're visited by a lot of our clients, and they acquire things early on to support them. And at 11 or 11 by 9, it's quite substantial in size.
He's very associated with Wheaton Village, or was, and really does some very interesting work.
Kind of reminds me of Stephen D. Edwards a little bit.
We got some of that later on this auction too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Louis DeLoop. This was a really fun one. I got to do a little research on. He was a probably the most well-known artist of the era, glass artist in Belgium. And I copied and pasted all the content in the post for the auction. And you showed him once upon a time. Is that true?
Yeah, back in like 1974. And we showed a couple of pieces, and he was quite famous. Louis LeLoup was one of the names you heard with Dale Chihuly and the Libinskys, and it was pretty interesting. And if you look at his resume, it's quite extraordinary.
It's great to find people like this in the world that have been dabbling in glass for so long. And quite a legendary career, and a great starting price on this because it's not much market in America, but this is a chance to get something really impressive.
Yeah.
So this was a fun one. This is a sculpture by Richard Marquis, and the B was done by somebody else because
Constantini,
yeah. Someone quickly made me add that to the post. Beautiful little piece from a private collection. Lots of fun with the color here, and this is definitely one I could enjoy and live with my collection. So Joe Ivacek, we've been representing him for a while. He did a series of blown backpacks representing topics in America about schools. And his idea behind it is a child's life is their backpack. You know, what do they really have in life? They have toys, they have their stuff they bring to school and back, and that's about it. And these sometimes live on a memory beyond the children that are lost in school shootings or other kinds of tragedies. But the idea is to have that great memory. And we decided to put one in the auction. It's a very powerful work, means a lot, and we're honored to have him in this auction. And he's been a past member of our exhibitions, including Not Grandma's Glass, and we expect him to be a force in the future. Corey, you want to talk about this a little bit, if we can hear you?
Well, first of all, I love that color, that lilac, lavender, neodymium diachroic glass. It's absolutely my favorite color that artists use, and just about every artist that we have represented, almost every artist has dabbled at some time in their career with this color. But Petr Hora is probably one of the most well-established artists in the Czech Republic. He studied and was good friends with a really famous designer by the name of Wiesner. And if you've heard of that name, then you've definitely been to the Czech Republic, because he's designed a tremendous amount of architectural elements throughout the entire country. But I love the minimalist and the geometric form that he uses. He's inspired by nature, which you don't really see unless you get to
We just lost you, Corey. You look like
know around him. It has something to do with the spatiality, the room around it, the space around it, and then that negative void. And so I absolutely love the fact that, the way he's able to capture light in all of his work.
Yeah, and as a 10-inch piece, it's manageable to put almost anywhere in a collection. It's very stunning. This two-part Robin Grebe piece came from a collection down south, I believe, and was delivered personally. We looked it over. It looks great. And Robin has retired from working as far as I know, but it is a very impressive piece. What do you say, Ferd?
Oh, I didn't know she had retired.
Yeah.
Ferd, one
Most
time,
retirees just don't know what other retirees are doing.
uh, Ferd, it's weird calling Dad. Hey, Dad. No, Ferd. What exactly? I know she was inspired by the island of Crete or something. What was that about?
Well, it wasn't the island of Crete, but it was in that vicinity in the Mediterranean. And there was a group of people, and they made these pieces, probably something to do with reproductive rights or reproduction. And these figures are the elongated figures that had just a wonderful feeling of warmth or whatever she wanted to convey with them. Sometimes she'd put a window in the chest so you could look in and see things. Yeah, we have what? I think 3 in our personal collection. Love her work.
Thank you, Bert. This was the mystery piece we put in the auction this year. We found it in the vault. Looks like it's from a Japanese artist, but 24 by 24, so it's quite big and it's beautiful. So if you love the color purple, this work is for you.
I think it's Masahiro Sasaki. I might be wrong, but we had a Japanese exhibit, a group exhibit, and that's where this piece is from. And we had about, I think, 3 of them. And if you click on it and move it around, you see how beautiful this piece is. It's a slumped and fused piece, and I frankly don't know what exactly has happened with the artist. Looks like she's continued on, but now more sculpture as opposed to this one's more of a vessel.
Aaron, is that metal around the edges of the surface? Is that like a electroplating,
It
or
feels
is it
like
just
it,
the way it's shot?
but there is some kind of texture on the edge of it for sure. But I think it might be a pate vert or a metal sprayed on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, good thing we're recording this. Now I know the artist's name. I'll do some research. Should it not sell? And it should sell. We've had these Susan Taylor Glasgow purses. We offered them as a limited in the past. We thought it'd be fun to incorporate one. It's a fully functional purse by the artist we just had an opening for here at the gallery. They've sold rather well in the past and give you a shot at getting one in auction. This is the time. Jean-Paul Van Lith. This is another artist from Europe, Ferd, right?
Yeah, yeah. These are all. This is an interesting collection that we brought in because it has these artists that had very little exposure in the United States, but were pretty well known in different parts of Europe. And this is an example of one of those artists.
Yeah, Ferd, that's great. You were going to mention something at the beginning of the auction about the time of the auction.
I'm sorry, what?
You were going to mention something at the beginning of the auction, which didn't give you a shot to do, which was about the time of collecting.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that I'm noticing more and more from appraisals and from various auctions that most of the major collections have either been up at auction, sold through galleries, or donated to museums. And so the pieces that are going to be in auctions in the future are going to be fewer. And that's going to make the prices obviously rise. This, quite honestly, it sounds like a paid commercial, but this, quite honestly, is an excellent time to acquire pieces at auction because it may be only for the next couple of years that we see enough pieces to have substantial auctions.
Thank you, Bird. Another French artist. This thing is quite beautiful. Another sand cast or carved mixed media. Giles Chaber, if I'm pronouncing that right. And another one from the same collection. People have an interest in the work. This would be a place to bid.
Very well known for doing figurative faces. This and working in multimedia. This I don't see faces, but obviously the multimedia is there.
Yeah, definitely. We have 3 Paul Stankards in the auction, and they all are hand-picked and incorporate different qualities of the legendary papermaker's style and work. This particular piece has a bee in it, and there's probably a root person maybe behind it. It's like a botanical insect, an earth spirit, and that's what Peter or Paul Stankard calls the root people, the earth spirit. So great piece from 1998, handpicked from the Belkin collection. We're personal friends of Paul's and had an amazing collection of their work. Ethan Stern, another younger artist that we show. I think he's based in California, Corey, is that right?
Seattle.
No, very close. Washington, yeah, Seattle. I love how you say young, 50 years old. Only about
Perfectly
50.
young.
That's
Um,
young.
Very different in color
Um,
and tone than a lot of his work, because a lot of it's very colorful. But this piece is a little more subtle and just stunning, and I hope it finds a home. Christina Bothwell, she just had some shows recently, and she's still making. We'll see some of her work on the upcoming Glass Coast weekend. This piece was actually sent back to her when we first got it, because a toe had a little bit of a breakage or a little bit of a clay missing from it, which she not only repaired the toe, but she cleaned the whole piece up and made it up to her standards. So this is a stunning work by Christina, and really incorporates the feeling of family, home, and children and dreams, which incorporates into all of her work. So I believe this might be the first Towers Bazaar we put at auction as a newer artist that we show from the Czech Republic. Very colorful, but watch this. This is the same piece, different light. So you get an idea of how light can really affect the image of what you look at, and many of you glass collectors know this. So I want to put up a little bit because it looks a little oranger, looks a little yellower, but he is a really talented upcoming artist that we've been showing for a couple of years, making beautiful, beautiful pieces, and this is a great time to get one.
We stopped by his studio twice with groups of people, and both times we sold a minimum of 10 pieces. They're so attractive.
I sold 27 of them to the Imagine Museum.
Always trying
But
to
on the other hand, this piece actually it might be referenced as Coast, but it's part of the Seed series, and it's his most popular series, I would say, in all of the work that he's created. This series in about 6 different colors and 3 different sizes. But this one is the largest size at about 20 inches wide. And they really are spectacular. What you're not catching is the optics when you look into the piece and the movement that you can see from the point, broadening a little bit larger into the eye.
James Abold, another newer artist we've been showing for the last couple of years, very topical work. This one is called Lacone Remix, and I did a little bit of research on Google and found out there was actually a god or deity named Lacone, and this obviously is a throwback to that kind of story. And usually does mold blowing, where he creates a mold and blows into it to create his pieces, and uses found objects to do that, or he creates them himself. This is a very substantial museum quality Seth Randall work we've had in the gallery. And we wanted to put it up at auction, and we tried to lower the reserve to get it somewhere reasonable for someone who's looking for one of Seth Randall's works. And it is an impressive one, this scholar piece.
There's only, I think, 2 other ones that I know of this scale and size, and that's in the Richard and Barbara Bash collection, which you'll see at the Seattle Art Museum, SAM, during your visit at Glass Coast Weekend, February 1st to the 4th. But it's really a spectacular piece. This one's entitled The Scholar.
Thank you, Corey. Early Rick Beck casting. I saw one of these before in my life, and we've had some attention on this particular piece for this auction. Many of you know Rick Beck. He has moved to Hawaii now and still works and creates out there. There's 2 pieces of his in the auction. This is an early piece, and we'll probably get to his beautiful gear piece later in the auction. Carl Berg, do you want to take this one?
Yes, a German artist, and he was represented by the Glass Art Gallery of Toronto, and they sold quite a number of his works, but highly polished, very interested in the dynamics of what glass can do with the interior and exterior viewing.
Yeah, they look like little diamond treasures.
Yeah,
at 9.5, almost 10 inches tall. They're quite substantial, and that mount separates from the piece. Does not look like Hiroshi Amano, does it? That looks like Hiroshi Amano. Let's skip to that one. Hiroshi Amano, This is an interesting piece. It's quite cool looking. Has this beautiful cup on it. It looks like it's gold foil on the back, and you can see right through it in the interior. Um, I have seen someone mention another one of these pieces online that contained a fish in the top of it, but looking back to the paperwork of the seller, there was never a fish in this particular piece. It is a beautiful work.
It's a beautiful one.
Bill the Queer basket weave series. As artists develop over time, it's fun to dive back in what they've made in the past. This work was made in 1980. I'm more familiar personally with this newer work that I've seen since I started at the gallery. But people got to start somewhere, and it's great.
No,
to
this
see
is,
This is
yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
Ferd.
All right. When this work first came in that he did, and there weren't very many of them at all, the precision of the cutting and the amount of energy it would take to make one piece was just astounding. And they sold immediately. It was something very unique in what was happening in glass during that time.
Yeah.
This particular piece is kind of interesting because a collector came in with this piece when I first started the gallery, and we always had a Bill Queer growing up in a little cabinet, and I always loved that piece. And so the collector came in and was interested in selling the pieces, and I had enough money to buy it, and I acquired the piece.
Mm.
Well, subsequently, I had it in the gallery, and another client came through and said, I really want it. And, after a little hemming and hawing, I said, fine, you can have the piece. And I sold it to that client. And somehow we ended up with it again for a third time. And it's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. It's like the day after I was born. It was made in 1980. The year after I was born. I mean, the whole thing, it's like so serendipitous. And now it's available here again at the auction. Unbelievable.
So, Corey, are you bidding on it? It's a question. You got to get.
I might.
Yeah,
I was
right.
really considering. I'm like looking at
Like
it for the first time, saying, "I know that piece."
It's
amazing.
This is the other
Amazing.
piece by Rick Beck. These are the rocker gears. I was the first. One of the first pieces I fell in love with in the gallery was one of these works, that I saw that we had in the gallery from one of our international shows, and he's since created the works in different sizes and different shapes and different colors. And this rocker gear is just a beautiful example of his talent and skill. Corey, you were talking about Vallien earlier. Why don't you keep talking about him?
Well, again, remember his birthday's in a couple weeks, at 86, and he's got these hands. If you ever look at him and you see him and you meet him in person, they like engulf. I feel like such a boy around him. He's like, they're enormous mitts, and he uses these hands to create probably some of the most spectacular work in glass I've ever seen. He uses riddled with symbolism from his life. I mean, each piece is almost like his own personal therapy or autobiography, if you will. From stairs, whether they go up or down, to little planets or celestial pieces, to just his fascination with water. Every morning in Costa, he goes and submerges himself in the depths and darkness and freezing frigid water, and comes out almost like he's been baptized. He really does this. Like, this is like he was doing it before it was cool to take an ice bath. It's his thing, and just an incredible artist. So good luck on that piece, and good luck on the others that's in the other piece also that's in the auction.
Yeah, we'll come to the next one soon. This is a piece by Lu Gongfeng. It's one of their mass-produced edition pieces. We do really well with these at this show. We figured we'd try one in the auction because there's always high demand for these kind of works. They're very peaceful and Asian themed works. A great work for anybody's collection.
So she came over. Yeah, go ahead.
The artist behind it is Loretta Yang. Yeah. And go ahead, Corey.
I was saying that she actually studied with Herb Babcock here in Detroit. And she wanted to learn a little bit about pâte verre. And so she studied with him for a little bit about casting, and then went over to Boston and studied with Dan Daly, and just kind of went around the United States picking the brains of some of these incredible artists that have worked with the material, and then bringing that information back to Taiwan and starting over 72 galleries throughout Japan, Taiwan, that have her work. In fact, there's a gallery here in the States, I believe in California, that just sells these Luli and Loretta Yang pieces. this, even though you say, you know, there's a multiple, there's still just absolutely exquisite and incredible examples of pate verre, and
Yeah.
probably some of the greatest in the world. So
Well,
I don't care if they're an addition.
let me just give you a little background because she's so interesting. She was a movie star, a very famous movie star. She won equivalent to the Academy Award twice. And her husband, Shang Yi, who's now passed away, also as a producer and director, had won awards and writers. In fact, one of the great pieces of literature, the top 100 in China, was written by him. Together, they were an enormous force, and she still is incredible in what she does. Luli means glass in Chinese, and we together worked on a show that went to Beijing, the new Monumental Museum, and the Shanghai Museum of Fine Art, right in the main areas. I don't think glass was ever treated as kindly as they did in China.
Wasn't that the very first show in China of a multicultural exhibition since 1942?
Well, close, 1949, and it was the first time that there was a national exhibition of art in China. And really, what they were trying to do is get the Olympics. And we were a pawn in all that. But it was a great position to be in.
Gotcha. Thank you, guys. Another treasure by Bertil Vallien. This is not so much a map piece or map series piece, but a very simple, clean works celebrating like the visualization of life in the sun, water, and the visuals. And I always incorporate a comment about the clarity in Bertil Vallien's work reflecting the unknown of the future. And this
Let
is
me mention really quickly, because I'm going to be there. Well, I'll be there in 6 days. So the people, as I've gone there a number of times, about a half a dozen times, I've noticed all kind of wear these masks. And as Ferd mentioned to me at one point, it's almost like peeling away at the layers that get to know who somebody truly is. And with these little masks, that's what I kind of find in some of Bertil's work. When I see these floating heads or floating masks, it's like, who are they, you know? And it's really kind of fascinating that I can make that connection in pathway.
Or 14 inches tall, 15 inches wide. Great piece by Vallien. John Nygren, I'll give this one to you, Ferd. You used to offer this artist back in the day.
I love this guy. It's, when he first had his work come into the gallery, and this was in the early 70s, I thought, well, this, it's got a wonderful, primitive, even an Asian quality to it. We said Oriental at the time. And, we had a show with him. And I said, what? I see all these things in your work, Well, if you ask him what he did, he said, well, I'm a farmer and a glass blower. So I didn't really expect that he'd have much education. But however, he said, well, I went to that there Cranbrook Academy of Art, yeah, and studied Asian art and did this. And so all of that is condensed into these wonderful little pieces.
Great story, Ferd. Thanks for sharing. We have two of them in the auction. Very historic works, too.
Yeah, great ones.
Newer artist we've started showing is the daughter of David Ricci, who makes very whimsical work and thoughtful work. And a lot of it is about life and how to get through life. Sometimes life is easy, sometimes life is hard. And these particular works are just overall peaceful pieces. She dabbles in animals and spiking, but she explores the commentary kind of like her father. Sometimes David Ricci uses little signs in his work to make it very, very clear what he's talking about. And Morag is her name, and she makes it a little more subtle. There's two of her pieces in this auction. This is the second piece of Me and My Unconscious Mind, which I love this piece.
Aaron, is this just one piece? It looks like three.
It is one piece. Yep. So you get three pieces, and 1, 2, 3, 4 globs. One is being stepped on. You can name every single one of them if you win this piece. This is the weird one by our friend Nick Mount. It is a big upside down dome with hanging pieces on it. Many of you know Nick from Australia. Very, very wonderful person, talented artist. And this is called the Scent Bottle and Whispering Dome. Could have something to do with something Australian. I don't quite know, but it's very big. That entire that stick that sticks out. I think the dome is the only thing that's mentioned. It's measured there. I think the stick is probably like 3 feet long, but it's kind of a very interesting piece if you have space in mind.
A lot of the works created by Dick Marcus were actually created by Nick Mount. He was the main gaffer for Dick Marcus at the Jam Factory in Australia, and actually was flown out a number of times to Seattle to just work on Dick's pieces over 35 years or so. And so they had a really wonderful relationship and even collaborated on some work. But you can kind of get that whimsical feel that that Dick has in some of Nick's work.
Mm-hmm. Ross Richmond, an artist that's dabbling in horses as of late. He's got a great body of work from the past. They're priced very, very well. Exploring the human bodies. We have a torso also in this auction. I really love this gentle hand holding this mask. I feel like I could be surrounded by these if I was going to a theater or had some kind of entertainment room. It doesn't have dimensions on it, but I'll have to find it out. It's probably about 14 inches tall.
I would have to look into it, but it looks like the mask is made of chalcedony, which is a type of glass that is actually prevalent here in Michigan, even though the artist is from Seattle and was one of the main gaffers for Billy Morris and even now Preston Singletary.
Emily Williams is a newer artist we started showing recently. We've shown her work in the Glass Coast Weekend a couple times and been very successful with it. Very whimsical lamp work pieces celebrating the underwater world. A lot of the works we get are in pink, so it might be like she's very into the pastels and corals. But these pieces are priced very, very well. It's 9 by 9 by 7.5 tall. I love this work. Corey, go ahead and talk about Kimberly Thomas. You just had some of her work done at Scope.
Kimberly is part of like the underground glass pipe world. And it's a crazy world. I had no idea really, because I didn't come from that background. I came from studio glass. I studied fine art. I don't know exactly so much about this other world, but it's kind of amazing. They all work in a glass called borosilicate. It's a soft glass, and if you remember the Bunsen beaker, you would remember what boro looks like. But it's become this really unbelievably popular amongst young collectors. Material to use as well as to acquire. Now, this particular piece entitled A Grassy Knoll is actually a self-portrait. And you can see that, she loves hip hop, so that the dancing, so the sneakers are there. She loves music. And so there's a barrel there. And so she works really hard, but there's bottles that are coming out of it. So she parties really hard. She's a total mess. That's why there's a dustpan there where you can clean up the cigarette butts and all the beer bottles. And then of course the blood bag on the bottom. She's constantly giving. She's an artist. That's what they do. They constantly give. They don't take. Most of them are broke. She is constantly giving. And so that's what this piece is really about. It's a small self-portrait entitled Grassy Knoll.
Thank you, Corey. That was very visual. I loved it. Perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We got another work at auction by one of our friends, Deanna Clayton, who will be at our Glass Coast Weekend upcoming in February. Wonderful pate verre vase, incorporating with copper and her own style. She teaches a class down there where you can actually cast your own bowl. I have my bowl behind me. I took one of her classes. They're a lot of fun. We've done really well with these vessel works over time. She also has other bodies of work, but these have been some of our most popular. Pavel Halava is one of the historic works that artists from the Czech Republic, probably one of the biggest names out there from the past. And Ferd, you had a chance to work with him?
Oh God, over many years, he was my best friend in the Czech Republic. I always stayed with him when I went there. And yeah, he was a kind of a deviant from the way people normally work in the Czech Republic, because it's known for cast glass. And although some of his pieces are cast, most of it is assembled and laminated together and cut and polished. And this is a beautiful example of his work called The Bird.
It is a beauty, and we're happy to have it in the auction. And I just love the coloring on these works. They would come across as very explosive. Speaking of Stephen D. Edwards, Corey,
I don't remember when he got into electroplating. That's kind of fascinating. I think this is a really interesting and unique piece. Ferd, maybe you can let us know. In 1986, was that, because the work that I kind of remember was late 70s, early 80s.
Well,
So
from the late 70s, I had him in a show called 10 Concepts in Glass. Every person in that show, whether it be Howard Bentrey, Dan Daly, they all became these very well-known artists. And he had his was doing these like C forms, and this was a series that I believe he started in '86. And you're right, Corey. That's the first time I remember him doing electroforming on the pieces.
you guys. Another beautiful work by our friend Paul Stankard, this one incorporating a damselfly. I thought it at first was a dragonfly until I read verbatim the name of the piece. And there's earth spirits in there, beautiful botanicals. He's such an incredible talent. This is one of my favorite pieces in the auction. Paul's just a great creator, and he's still working today, making some of the best work of his career. But these paperweights are where he was really starting, and you can see some of this stuff incorporated today in his new work that he learned back then. Another work by Kimberly Thomas. She obviously, not everything she makes was a pipe, and you can find her on Instagram making simple shoes and different speakers and toys and chairs. And I love when she puts together a little collaboration of all these things that created her actual pieces.
these aren't
boxes.
I'm sorry, Aaron, I don't mean to interrupt. These aren't self-portraits. These are about her friends. So she was telling me this, anything entitled Rule of 10 is about her friends. So she'd go to a party and she'd chain smoke a pack of cigarettes, and she's drinking a beer, and she looks over and sees, her friend Matt, who's just kind of like hanging out, always in slippers. She doesn't know what he does or if he even works or what the story is, but he's there at the party. And so she's like, I'm going to make a piece out of him. Now, these are very small. They're like 2 inches by 2. They're very, very small, but they're precious. And so she kind of like examines, like studies these different people at these parties, like that she considers friends. She goes, okay, a slipper. Okay, there's a slipper, a little pee bottle, because he looks like he doesn't want to leave his chair to go to the bathroom, and kind of like she knows that he works probably kind of hard, but not too hard. So the barrel's broken or the bucket's broken. And of course, the guy loves music. So he's like the DJ of the party. So he's constantly getting up and changing the record, that guy. And so this is like an ode to him. And of course, it's called Rule of 10 Boombox.
Thanks, Corey. You're the right guy to ask. Another work by Ross Richmond, Corey mentioned, who was the past gaffer for William Morris as well as Preston Singletary, exploring the human body form, freestanding sculpture. Just a great example of his work.
Listen, really quickly, I want to go back to Ross Richmond. Probably the most looked after artist of our day, because he is one of the greatest technicians. That means the ability to work with glass on the end of a blowpipe than any other American artist. And, Pino Signoretto may have been completely famous in Italy. He was a maestro. You brought his work to the United States and nobody knew who he was. And it's because, he didn't have the right marketing behind him. And, unfortunately he passed away, but was one of the best in the world, could make anything out of glass.
Yeah.
And Ross Richmond is one of these artists that can do that. He has the ability to make anything out of glass, and he finds himself working for all of these other artists over his career. Like I said, Billy and Raven and whoever else he can wield the blowpipe, because he's considered, one of the greatest artists to work with the material. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a gallery, that has grabbed his career and taken him where he deserves to be.
Yeah. Here.
A fun work by artist Shelley Allen, I've had a long relationship with. She started her career off with animals, and she continues it today. We showed her at the last couple Glass Coast weekends, had some solo shows for her. This is a fun work called Bear. You can really see her talent in the body of the work and the coloring and the sculpture and the freestanding stand. And an 8x8x3, I wanted to put one in here to represent her and keep her in our auction.
Yeah.
Another casting by Petr Hora, a beautiful reddish scarlet color. Same kind of scale as the previous piece. These works were created in homage of his larger works, and they're just as impressive as the large works at the smaller scale.
Actually, the title of this one's called Domus, Domus.
Gotcha.
And it's supposed to represent a cathedral, almost like a window going in. You know, you're peering into a window.
Like the way the color slowly fades away to the edge of the sculpture.
Beautiful piece.
Speaking of William Morris, we have a river stone. This is kind of like a long vessel laying on its side, I think. But beautiful tones and colors, quite substantial, 27 inches wide. And just an overall beautiful piece. It's always interesting to see. Like I tried to look up more of these works by William Morris, if there was a stone series, a river stone series. And I couldn't find much online, but this is definitely a great example of it.
Yeah, the marketing it was crazy. He did a series called Standing Stones, and he did them at Pilchuck, and some of them were up to about 58 inches. That's a very substantial scale. And he was blowing into these wooden molds at one point and fuming them from the inside. And they were just, oh God, they were spectacular. But, because they were so large at the time, it was, and so difficult to make there was very few galleries that showed them, and very few of them came out of left Washington, and so he stopped making that series. But that series today would rival any glass work that is being created at the end of a blowpipe today. And so it's just kind of remarkable that these series of some of these artists just completely disappear, but occasionally you come across a wonderful piece like Riverstone.
Well, also, he told me that making these very large scale works was like being a prize fighter. And you had a certain period of time in your life when you had the agility and the strength to be able to make them. And so maybe that's why you retired.
Maybe. Steve Tobin. Corey, go ahead and talk about this one. I'll show the second picture in a second.
I mean, there are artists, and then there are Steve Tobin. I don't know what to say. He is like 50 artists in one. Okay. Glass, glass. Oh, okay. I'll dabble with glass. I'll make the largest blown pieces ever to be made. And he made the largest, these cocoon pieces, castings. I'll make these doorways. And he cast the largest pieces some of them weigh close to 4,000 pounds. I've seen them. I've been in the studio. You can't move them without a crane. And I mean, just way, way beyond his time. I mean, he was casting this work in 1990. They're triple the size of Libensky's. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Now he's, working with, will work with ceramics. He works with ceramics, drops explosives into ceramics. I'm working with bronzes. He's makes these pieces, these root pieces that are, 30 feet tall. He's got this wonderful exhibition in China right now that has over 40 pieces. They did a 50-piece spread about them. He also has an exhibition right now in Hawaii, in Maui, that was set fire. Maui was set fire, and the country got together and said, we want to do something to show that we are still around. So they got a Steve Tobin show that is 3 40-foot containers that have been drifted off to Maui, and the show should be opening up in about 3 months. It's supposed to be absolutely spectacular, make world news, yada, yada, yada. But like I said, he's 50 artists in one, and this is just one example of the 50 artists entitled Doorway Number 3.
This particular piece has these crazy carvings on the front. It'll be representing the doorway or the passage of the secret code to get through. And I had a request to blaze light through the piece to show what it looks like when it actually has light going through it, and it really starts to pop. It doesn't really look like a dark sculpture. It really has some great, beautiful tones to it in the casting. This is a Habatat piece. One of my favorite pieces by the artist. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 of these in my life. And I'm a big fan of this body of work. It incorporates a lot of his talent of laminating glass together along with a blown orb. And that top piece sits on the base. And it's just a stunning sculpture, museum quality piece by far. Bennett Bean, this is kind of a left turn for us, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Corey?
Sort of, because he actually, I believe our gallery in Southfield had Bennett Bean's pieces in the lower level. It was called Vetri Gallery.
Venture,
I don't know. Venture.
venture.
There's so many Vitro, Ventral. I don't know. But we showed Bennett Bean's work. So technically, and Ferd had a gallery called Habatat Shaw that also focused on ceramics for I don't know, like close to a decade. So when you say left field, I don't think there is a left field for Habitat.
This piece has had a lot of attention online. People collect the work. It's great to incorporate it and bring attention to everything that we do.
Yeah.
Another work by Tammy Coatsworth, this time a full-size crayon box. Every crayon is uniquely made and laminated in the box so they don't come out. Can't draw with them. I hope you're a fan of green because they're all green in this particular sculpture. It's Regina's hand holding it up to show it looks like a natural light. A very fun piece. The whole thing is made by hand, and just a great opportunity to acquire it and have a fun piece in your collection.
Amazing.
Very colorful Richard Ritter. I have a Richard Ritter in my collection. I'm sure Corey and Ferd do too. He's a impressive collection artist from the history of glass and beyond. He is fully retired now, so everything on the market is going to be what's out there is today. So this is a great opportunity to get a very colorful and wonderful piece. Look at all that Marini in there. Look at all those designs.
Both pieces. We passed one earlier, and it was a earlier pieces from the 80s, and that at that time that was a platter piece, but it had the cane work in it, and we had the longest waiting list for that work to come in of any artist that we exhibited, and so of course Richard stopped making them. And it was like, Richard, I admired him as an artist and, willing to move on. As a merchant, I was, they're just so brilliant, these works. They really are. They took canes, a traditional method of working with glass, and Americanized them and made them undulate in these beautiful pieces. I mean, both of those examples are just amazing examples of his work too.
I agree. Thank you, Ferd. Bailey Rogers, this book is called Weapons. It came from a collection in Florida. And many of you know Sally, she's a very strong person. And I believe this has to do with a certain proportion of a man's body. But we'll quickly move on from that comment and enjoying the beauty about the work. They look like they could be axe heads or arrowheads or weapons of some sort, but they are just incredible sculptures from the era by the artist. She dabbles in mixed media a lot as well.
She made this piece actually in Michigan. So she went to College of Creative Studies, and in 1996, this piece was actually one of the few pieces that she had made here. So it's kind of interesting.
20 inches tall. But we don't often have work by Michael Barons at auction. We've had this piece for a while in our vault, and I figured this will be the time to put it out. This is from the David and Joanne Den collection. They acquired this piece directly from us, and it's a rare opportunity to get a work by Michael at auction. The artist is obviously heavily inspired by his travel, about his undersea scuba diving life, and every work is just a masterpiece. And so this is probably one of the earliest or only opportunities to get one of his pieces at auction, and you have a great shot at it, and it's a beautiful work. John Moran, for those who don't know, spoiler, he's the winner of season 3 of Blown Away, and we had a great opportunity to bring one of his works into this auction. We have an exhibition of a few pieces downstairs that we've had from our international, and we wanted to give a shout out to him by putting one of his well-known Mickey Moray skull heads. This one is called Woke But Broke, and I believe he made this piece at Corning, if I'm correct, and it was shipped to us. And it's just an overall wonderful sculpture by the artist, but you have to know who he is and know about him, what he's trying to do. Every work he creates is supposed to make you feel something. We've done a couple of talks with him during the pandemic and beyond through the Habitat Now format, and every talk is incredible. I advise you go back and watch and learn about the artist.
What's the 253? Do you know, or do we have to find out?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's a police code for something, knowing John. I just don't know off the top of my head. Martin Rasoul, you want to take this one?
Beautiful.
Corey?
Who are you talking about?
Yeah. Martin Rosal, currently living in Jersey, but originally from the Czech Republic. And, this is an early example of his work that I think is a period of time where few artists were, really focusing on the surface of glass. They really weren't adorning it with different metals or, you had Fujita that would work on the surface in the 80s, and you had a few others, but very few, especially from the Czech Republic, were coming out of there working on the surface. And I love the optics of this piece, where he's polished the middle area where you can look in and see the inclusion, which I think is really spectacular. I mean, a phenomenal artist, still making work today, and was represented heavily by Chance because of the location that Jim was in. Did very well with his work over the years, and we've always tried to get work in, but it's like every piece we get in, we sell. So we over the years, it's hard to have a show when you're only getting 1 or 2 pieces in at a time. But a phenomenal artist. This one is the Lost Treasure series, and I really truly believe that's what it is, a lost treasure.
Sure. Carmen Vetter is another artist we've shown at the gallery in the past, creating beautiful multi-layer fused sculptures. You can see in the detail between the layers as she digs away between the layers of glass. You can see hidden color and hidden objects. And these are giant panels of 42 by 42 inches. Each of them are probably 24 by 24 that end up mounting together.
12 by 12. But Aaron, I got to tell you, and I don't mean to interrupt again, but these are so difficult to make. They're so complicated. These are layers and layers of powder glass. They're powders. And she's invented machines that pull the powder away. So the whole thing is not fired. It's just powders that she has to carefully put into the kiln. And it's happened so many times, it's driven her crazy. But if she accidentally tilts it a little bit to the left, we're talking like a millimeter, the whole thing is ruined. So she has to carefully place it in the kiln and pray that there's no air or anything that could get to the piece to heat it up. Now it's done in sections, 4 sections, but she's working on one complete idea with those 4 sections, and each one of them is fired separately. So you can understand if she makes a mistake on one piece, the whole thing is ruined. Right. And it takes her months and months to work.
Look at the size, Corey. They are 24 by 24. These are bigger than you remember.
Oh, wait, these are
tall.
Yeah, 42 by 42. The whole thing is 42 by 42.
Panel is 24 or 21.
Doesn't
21. Right?
Okay, 21. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep.
This one's 21 by 1, but they are just giant and they are stunning.
Yeah. And the texture is amazing on them.
Yeah.
Great finds to have at auction. Probably I've never seen her work at auction before either. And here we go, the Bird of Paradise Zynsky piece. It is a piece we picked up ourselves as we went to visit the client's home and picked up a bunch of work. And it's handled by us. It is in great condition. Love the coloring, love the tone, love the reds. This is a Bird of Paradise for sure. And at 10 by 10, it's a great size. And we have some attention on this piece, as you can imagine, at auction. And I wish everybody who's bidding good luck. Another treasure at this auction is a rare large Petr Bremers piece, 18 by 21. And Peter corrected the price recently for me. It's on our webpage. I think it's called, let's see if I can find it real quick while I got it in front of me.
The title.
The
Blue
correct
Circle?
title, yeah.
It's called Circumstances.
Circumstances 2. Thank you, Peter. He's here. Talk about this piece, but it was an amazing, stunning sculpture he created. It's very rare to see something like this come to auction. And I'm honored to do it by far. It's absolutely stunning work. It always reminds me of Infinity and Beyond when I see works that are like this shape and design and color. And all I gotta say is wow. And whoever gets this piece, you are a lucky man or woman.
It's one of the early Inward Journey pieces that I did. So all the traveling and all the, the icebergs and then later the canyon and desert pieces, all of that kind of accumulated into an inward journey. And I tried to make these pieces, and I called them Circumstances because, as you can see, the lines are going around. So what it really is about is that circumstances change in life, and they can really change you in how you feel and what's going on and all that. But you're always getting back to yourself. In the end, it's still you, and you still have to kind of, find your piece or find your equilibrium with those circumstances. So this is a precious piece. It's precious to me, and I told Aaron, if it doesn't make a good price, I'll just buy it back.
Perfect. Correct.
And I wanted to mention, thank you, Peter. I wanted to mention something very quickly about the collectors that bought this piece. They were big supporters of Habatat, and they would acquire one piece a year, 1 to 2 pieces a year together during our international. They would do it together. It was something that they did, and they looked forward to it all year. And they would research artists that they wanted, and they would kind of go down the list of specific works. And when we had our international, they would go through the whole thing, and they would spend a lot of time talking and discussing works with us and themselves. And it was just something that they kind of did together. And when the husband passed away, it was a little bit more difficult to make decisions. And subsequently, the collection kind of stopped or narrowed off. This was one of the last pieces that they had collected together. And so it means more than just what it was. It was a time that they had and something important enough where they spent enough time to discuss and why it was important. I love the idea of there was that loop. There's a name for it, a loop that goes on forever. You take a paper, that's how I feel about this inward journey, is this loop, and I think we all experience it. So that's why it's so easy to connect to a sculpture like this.
Thank you, Peter. Correction of the year, it is 2013. We're getting close to the hour, guys, so we're going to zip through the rest of these for sure. Fun work by Doug Anderson. We've sold a couple of the pate verre sculptures, and one of the first people probably to use pate verre in America.
In America, yeah. He was the guy. And they were really just absolutely amazing. This is from the Belkin collection.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
No, this one is?
I don't know. I think it might be.
I don't think that this particular one is but we do have.
Yeah, we have other ones in the Belkin collection.
Yeah, I've never seen this one. And he was another one. He actually retired to stop making glass. And he too was a farmer, I guess, North Carolina.
Always a farmer for things like your stories.
What was it? Weren't you a farmer too at one point?
Yeah.
A very nice John Lewis moon vessel from the past as well, 1981, 8x8. It says 8.5 by 5x5, but it can't be. It's got to be 5 by 5 by 5. So just ignore that primarily. This is something new to the auction too. Jen Violet is one of the artists we represent now. I wanted to give some exposure to her fun and peaceful works at auction. They're priced very well, and they're blown in hot work. Some of them incorporate metal, some incorporate glass, and there's 2 of them at the auction. Feel free to place your bids. Honored to have her in the auction. Another treasure by Paul Stankard. We have 3 of them all scattered throughout the auction, and these have some beautiful earth spirits in them. And then probably just diving into a single kind of flower. Everything has a meaning in his work, and he's just incredible. A freestanding, unique sculpture by artist Miriam Di Fiore from Italy. And I think she was born in Argentina and moved to Italy and lives there. And this is a panel. The light is beautiful through it. This, I believe, came from the David and Joanne Den collection. It's been here sitting in our vault for a while, and just had to find the opportunity to shoot it and put it up at auction. Just beautiful colors and tone.
Mm-hmm.
Another Emily Williams, very different from the previous one. Same kind of concept, though, with the pink color, a little more wild this time. A little larger piece, but I think they're both priced similarly in the auction. And she's an up-and-coming artist, a great time to get her work early on. Another Thomas Brazone sculpture, more rare of its color and size. It looks kind of like an axe head, but man, the tone and the dimension and the texture, it's just absolutely perfect on this work. And if you're really into geometry or architectural design, this work is for you. Put a Martinetsky in the auction, one of his Hero series pieces. It's got to be fun to incorporate one of these works. I'm talking about one of the most talented artists blowing glass in America. Another artist that has taken a different direction from the Czech casting world and took some classes and studied under William Morris and a bunch of other artists. And he's just an amazing talent. If you ever see a bunch of our past Zooms talking about his work, he is just an incredible artist, and we're honored to show him in this auction.
He has a new studio on the foothills of Prague 1, which is Prague Castle. He's the only artist in, I believe, Eastern Europe that has a glass blowing studio. At least that's what he said, which is quite fascinating. That means, it's a tremendous. If you want something blown, you're going to have to go to his studio. But to be where he is, he gets over 3 million people that go by his studio a year, which is amazing. So
yeah.
anyhow, a glass blower's dream, really.
Always fun to have Emily Brock in the auction, another artist that has retired. This is a very impressive changing the exhibition piece. She must have been inspired of going to set up an art show at one time or another to create this work, and it's always fun to see hidden things around Emily's work, small plates, small napkins, pieces on the floor that aren't on display yet, ladders on the wall. And so we put some more pictures of this piece also at the on the auction site so you can see multiple sides of it. An earlier piece from 1990, but a great piece nonetheless.
Great, yeah.
And that wraps up our auction. We have the last piece here, which is a very unique piece by Libensky and Brychtova called Pomeroy 3. This was sold at Habatat Galleries and lived in the area since it was brand new. And the client has since moved out of state and wanted to sell a couple of pieces. And we're honored to have this very unique Libensky. I've never seen one like it anywhere else other than this particular auction in our gallery. So if you're looking for a very unique Libensky Brychtova piece,
I'm always dazzled by this because this was in our first exhibition. The first exhibition of Libensky's in the United States was 1983 at Habitat. And the date on this is 1984.
right, we gotta fix that.
Totally perplexed. But anyway, yeah, it's really a beautiful example of their early work. And it was so exciting to have that exhibition. It's very memorable to me.
Well, everybody, that wraps up our little soiree here. Join us for the auction. It starts in 15 minutes. For those of you who are on this talk, the auction's not held here. It's held on our MasterWorks site. So jump over to that site. It should be launched already on the MasterWorks site. You can just hang out till we jump on it as well. If you have any questions or concerns or want to place some last minute bids, feel free to call someone here at the gallery. Else, you'll be bidding online or we have silent bids or phone bids we'll be calling. We're honored to have such an incredible collection to be offered today. So thank you all for joining me. We will see you very soon at the auction site. If you have any questions, contact us. I'm going to slow down a bit from the past so people have a chance to bid. I've got some comments from people saying go too fast. So
Aaron, what time does the auction start? It's 2:05 right now.
Starts at 2:15 in 10 minutes. So that was my incentive to sweep through the rest of this stuff. But good to see you all. We'll see you next week for next week's Zoom, and good happy bidding, everybody. Take it easy. Bye.
So long.